Berachos Daf Tezayin. The Gemara tells us that Rav Ami and Rav Asi were building a chuppah for their friend Rabbi Elazar who was getting married that day. Rabbi Elazar said, I'm a chassan, let me go learn Torah now, and I'll come back with what I learned. So he came back with the following. He said, if a person makes a mistake in Milah Kriya Shema, let's say he misses a word, he must go and repeat the entire Shema. Let's say a person says Uvisharecha, and he's not sure where he's holding. Is he holding at the end of the first parasha that has Uvisharecha, or perhaps he's holding at the end of the second parasha? He must go to the first parasha. According to Rashi, the following halacha applies to the third parasha. In other words, the third parasha a person knows better than the other two parashiyos. Therefore, if he's concerned that perhaps he missed a word or something in the third parasha, don't be concerned. You know it really well, and you probably said every single word. You don't have to repeat it. Says the Mishnah, if you have a worker who's picking fruit from a tree, or even his boss, and they're on top of a tree, and the time of Kriya Shema comes, they're allowed to say Kriya Shema on top of a tree, provided that the first pasuk of Kriya Shema they stop working and they concentrate on the first pasuk. According to other Rishonim, they have to concentrate on the entire first parak. But when it comes to Shemona Esrei, they must come off the tree and daven Shemona Esrei where it's sturdy and they're not concerned and they're able to have the proper kavanah. If it's a tree that's really sturdy and has a lot of branches, such as an olive tree or a fig tree, they're allowed to stay and remain on top of the tree. The Gemara makes a distinction between a worker who receives a salary for his work and a worker who only receives food. One who receives a salary has to be a lot more careful with his time and how he uses it, and he shouldn't cause a loss to his boss. So therefore, when he davens Shemona Esrei, he should only say the Shemona Esrei known as Havinenu. It's the shortened Shemona Esrei where you say the first 3 brachas and the last 3 brachas, and everything in between is shortened to 3 to 4 words. Like you see in the picture, this is from a siddur given to servicemen in the English Army in 1940. When you say Birkas HaMazon, you only say 2 out of the 4 brachas. You say the first one completely, and the second and third bracha you combine together. The fourth one is only the Rabbanon, you don't have to say. When it comes to Birkas HaMaiti, since it's only the Rabbanon, they don't even wash and say a bracha. Someone that works for his food should be careful not to be a chazan, because that's a waste of time for the owner, and he shouldn't do Birkas Kahanim, he shouldn't duchen. As we learned in the beginning of the Masechta, ha'isek b'mitzvah pater min mitzvah. If somebody is occupied with a mitzvah, he doesn't have to say Kriya Shema, because it says b'shivtecha b'veisecha. And from Uvelech to Chavaderech, we learned that a chassan who's not physically doing a mitzvah, but he's preoccupied in his head with the mitzvah of marrying a basula, therefore he is pater from Kriya Shema, because he has a combination of 2 things. He's preoccupied and it's a mitzvah. Therefore, a person who's preoccupied but not in a mitzvah, for instance, if his ship is sinking and he's very occupied with that, but it's not a mitzvah, he's chayiv in Kriya Shema, because he's obligated to take that preoccupation out of his head. If, for instance, he's an avel, he lost a loved one and he's preoccupied, that's also not a mitzvah, and he's chayiv in all the mitzvahs. A person who marries an almana, he's not preoccupied. Yes, it's a mitzvah, but he's not preoccupied, and therefore he's chayiv in Kriya Shema. The Gemara tells us that Gamliel himself, when he got married, he did say Kriya Shema because he knew about himself that he could be mechaven, and the Gemara says that anybody who's muchzak, that has a chazaka, that he's a chacham, and he could be mechaven during Kriya Shema, he's allowed to say Kriya Shema. But anybody that's not muchzak, according to Gamliel, that's considered gaiva. He has haughtiness. He says, "Oh, I could be mechaven," and chacham say that he could say Kriya Shema regardless. An aval who just lost a loved one is usher to bathe, unless he's what we call an istinus, somebody who's spoiled. He likes to take care of himself, and he's not bathing for enjoyment, but rather he can't live without it. And that is in a time that the Isser of Rechitza, of bathing oneself, is the Rabbanon. Because the first day, there's the Isser Deraisa. But the first night, according to some, and after the first night, according to everybody, then it's only Isser Rabbanon, and Rabbanon were makbid when it came to an Istinus. If a person loses a slave, we don't stand in the rows that we stand in front of Avelim and say Hamakim Yenachim. We don't say Hamakim Yenachim, and we don't make the bracha of Rechava, which is by the Suda, the first Suda of Havra. What do we say to somebody that loses a slave? We say Hamakim Yemalech Esreincha, like we do for any other object that one might lose. There's no hespedim that you give on a slave. According to Rabbi Yossi, if the Eved, the slave, was a kosher, he was a Talmud Chacham, then you could say, Oy ish toiv neman v'nehenem igiyoi. Wow, what a great person he was, and he was trustworthy, and he was nehena. He worked hard, and that's how he earned a living. Chacham disagree, and they say If that's what you say about a slave, what is left to say about any kosher Jew? And therefore, you don't say any hesped on a slave. You don't call a slave Mr. or Abba or Ima, which was in those days a way to call somebody in a nice way, unless this slave is a chash of a slave, and then you could give him that kind of surname. We only have 3 avos, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. We have 4 imais, and we don't have any more. In other words, you can't call one of the Shvatim Ruvain one of our avos, because the chashivas is up to 3 avos and 4 imais. Whoever is careful with Kriya Shema and Shemona Esrei, says the Gemara, he'll have Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. And now the Gemara brings many different tefillos that the Amoraim and the Tanaim would say after Shemona Esrei in order to make the Shemona Esrei their own. And with time permitting, we'll go through most of them. Rebbe Lazar would say the following: Yiratzim ufanecha Hashem Elokeinu, that we should have a hava, v'achva, v'reis, v'shalom. In other words, we should have peace and harmony, achdus, and we should have many talmidim, and that the future should show a lot of hope, and we should have Gan Eden, and we should have the Yetzer Tov, and we should wake up in the morning and find that we have Yiras Shamayim, and we should find all our needs. Rabbi Yochanan used to say, Yiratzim v'nach Hashem Elokeinu, peek at our shame and see how hard we have in our life, and you should use rachamim and oiz and chasidus, and you should give us graciousness, and you should use good and invasun osecha. Reb Zera would say, Yiratzim v'nach Hashem Elokeinu, shalei nechta v'lei nevosh, we shouldn't sin, we shouldn't be shameful. Reb Chia would say, Yiratzim v'necha shetei terascha u'monoseinu, our occupation should be Torah, and we shouldn't have pain in our heart, and we shouldn't have dim eyes. And Rav would say the famous davening that we say on Rish Chodesh, Yiratzim v'necha Hashem Elokeinu shetiten lanu chayim arukim, long life, chayim shel shalom, shel toiva, shel bracha, shel parnasa, chilut tzatzamayis, chayim sheyesh b'hem yiras chet. We shouldn't have bushu chlima, we should have wealth, we should have a havas Torah and Yiras Shamayim, and chayim shtemal alonus kol mishalis lebenu l'toiva. Rebbe would say, Yiratzim ufanecha shetatzilenu me'azei panim. A lot of people insert that in the davening. Me'azes panim me'adam ro me'pegara. People shouldn't say terrible rumors about us. We shouldn't have bad friends and bad neighbors. Whether it's a guy or a non-guy. Even though Rebbe had guards, he would still say all these tefillos. And tomorrow, Mir Hashem, will continue with the rest of the tefillos. Have a wonderful day.